The birthplace of the Bohemian Revolution from Cowork 591 Studios. We are the Bohemian Reformation, and this is the Steve Brown Arts Center Podcast Network with producer Blake Tempus and co-host Dale Rueber. I'm Jim Gillespie, and this is the Jesup News for January 27th, 2025.
The month is almost over.
It is. It's almost payday, Dale. Almost payday. Today we're sponsored by Mickey D's Pizza and Lobster. The Pharaohs are the kind sponsors of this podcast. Include them on at your wedding, graduation, or festival plans. Don't wait. Their schedule is filling up. The Steve Brown Arts Center, the creative art of the Buchanan County, is also supported by the podcast What's Up? Have you been asking what's up with something going on lately? Everyone has a story, opinions, and experience to share, and they do that on What Is Up podcast, discussing real life with real people, the good and the bad, the highs and the lows, and everything funny in between. Bubba's a fun guy. The most interesting yet entertaining podcast that makes people think, one conversation at a time. After you're done listening to us, check out Bubba Seaman on the podcast What Is Up. So Dale, I know you got something on Bob Uecker tonight. Bob Uecker passed away. Let's start with Bob Uecker.
Okay, well, Bob Uecker, I remember, I'm old enough that I actually saw him play.
Oh, really?
On television.
Did you know he only had 200 at-bats?
Well, it was very few, but they all were meaningful. And didn't think much of him as a player. You know, he very seldom played, and I didn't know anything about him. Just one time I tuned into the game of the week, and Uecker was catching for some reason instead of the regular catcher, and so I knew that he was a Major League Baseball player and that he didn't play much. So then I was a big fan of the Johnny Carson, The Tonight Show, and the first time he had Uecker on, and he was just so funny, just deadpan baseball stories and making fun of himself, and just Carson just laughed and laughed. And it turned out he was on then over 100 times. And I mean, if Carson didn't like you never got back on again. Right. Well, he was on, and Carson started calling him Mr. Baseball, and Uecker took that up. He was an actor. He had his own TV show, and he was in a few movies. Major League, probably the most. And then he was the announcer for the Milwaukee Brewers, the radio announcer. And I don't know if he did some TV. And one time we were taking a tour of the stadium, Deb and I, with a bunch of people, and we got to sit in his chair up there in the radio booth. But very amusing man, and the thing that got me is he always said, you know, he could have done more movies, done more TV, but he loved baseball. Baseball was his thing. And I grew up in a time, and I always think I feel so old to make myself, but in the 50s we had the Milwaukee Braves and the Yankees playing in the 57 and 58 series, and the Dodgers and the Yankees in the World Series, and then that huge Pirates-Yankee series in 60 where Mazeroski hit that home run, and then 61 Madeline Maris hitting all those home runs, and just a fantastic time. And I grew up in Hazleton, and we had baseball, and that was pretty much it. And I lived across the street from center field. You just walk across the street and you were on the ball diamond grass, center field grass. So anytime anybody was over there playing, you went right over and got in the game. They used to call them pickup games, where guys would just say, let's go play ball, and you choose up sides, or you play work up, something like that. And if you were younger, they would find a way to let you play also, and I played with older kids a lot. And so it just became a big part of my life. And so anyway, Uecker is kind of like Yogi Berra. You know, a lot of quotes that are famous from him, and so I thought I would read through a bunch of those just to honor him tonight.
Yeah,
right? Okay. It says, the biggest thrill a ball player can have is when your son takes after you. That happened when my Bobby was in his championship Little League game. He really showed me something. Struck out 3 times, made an error that lost the game. Parents were throwing things at our car and swearing at us as we drove off. Gosh, I was proud. And I remember Carson asking him this about how you catch a knuckleball. And he said, well, the way to catch a knuckleball is to wait until it stops rolling and then pick it up. So in 1962, I was named Minor League Player of the Year, and that was my second season in the big leagues. I think my top salary was maybe in 1966, I made $17,000, and 11 of that came from selling the other players' equipment. This is probably my favorite. When I came up to bat with 3 men on and 2 outs in the ninth, I looked in the other team's dugout, and they were already in their street clothes. I had a great shoe contract and glove contract with a company who paid me a lot of money never to be seen using their stuff. So I knew when my career was over. In 1965, my baseball card came out with no picture on it. So, hey, I think it's easy for guys to hit 300 and stay in the big leagues. Hit 200 and try to stick around as long as I did. I think it's a much greater accomplishment. That's hard. Career highlights, I had 2. I got an intentional walk from Sandy Koufax, which would be something to brag about, and I got out of a rundown against the Mets. So, baseball hasn't forgotten me. I go to a lot of old-timers games and I haven't lost a thing. I sit in the bullpen and let people throw things at me, just like old times. When I looked at the third base coach, he turned his back on me. If you're a baseball guy, these are really funny. Okay. And I like this. There's no humor in it, but it just shows you throw batting practice, you warm up pitchers, you sit and cheer, you do whatever you have to do to stay on the team. And that's kind of, I remember doing that. I would keep score, so I didn't play much, but I got to keep score when you're a freshman or a sophomore on the high school team, and you would keep score, running at the water, wherever, just so you could have your uniform on and be a part of the game. Yeah. And maybe get a chance to play every now and then, but anything to keep yourself on the team. I hit a grand slam off Ron Herbel, and when his manager, Herman Franks, came out to get him, he was bringing Herbel's suitcase with him. Anybody with ability can play in the big leagues, but to be able to trick people year after year, the way I did, I think that was a much greater feat. He says, sporting goods companies pay me not to endorse their products, kind of like the other. People have asked me a lot of times, because I didn't hit a lot, how long a dozen bats would last me. Depending on the weight and model I was using at the time, I would say 8 to 10 cookouts. I've been playing for a while, and I asked Louisville Slugger to send me a dozen flame-treated bats. But when I got it, I realized they had sent me a box of ashes. Any teammate of mine that had a kid and a boy that was capable of playing baseball, I think I set a terrific example of don't do this and don't do that. And that's one of the things I'm most proud of. And here's another thing just about loving baseball. He says, let's face it, umpiring is not an easy or happy way to make a living. In the abuse they suffer and the pay they get for it, you see an imbalance that can only be explained by their need to stay close to a game they can't resist. Mm-hmm. And I think that's ever so true and says a lot about baseball. So there's something about it. I read a little book, and the guy's talking about going and watching baseball games. He said one game, they were late, stuck in traffic, so they didn't get there until after the game had started. Well, it so happened that on the very first pitch of the game, somebody had hit a home run. So the guy says, we get there, my wife says, oh, they scored a run, but that's we didn't miss hardly anything. First pitch of the game, the guy had hit a home run. Nothing else happened. And so the game was over. It was 1-0, so they did not see. And then he said the other time was he and his wife were at the game, and it was like 11-3 or whatever. And in the 8th inning, it had been a long game. His wife was anxious, so they said, okay, then we'll beat traffic. So they left. So they get in the car, and he's driving. He's got the baseball game on the radio, and his team scored 9 runs in the bottom of the 9th and won the game. So he said, never get there late and never leave early. Yeah. And that's kind of my motto for watching baseball games. So
I love that. Yeah, so, very good.
So Bob Uecker, it's amazing how many of these old guys that we really love to see play and everything, and how many of them are gone now. And
Dale, I got to ask you, why do you think baseball went from being the grand game, from being America's game, to now professional football is without a doubt the game. They control. I think of the top 100 television shows each year, 47 of them are NFL games.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I have no real answer for that. But I know people changed, and they thought sitting 3 hours watching a baseball game too long when sometimes things go slowly, and sometimes not much happens, especially if you don't know some of the nuances of the game. But football is more action. It's more explosive. Any play can be a 60-yard run or a long pass or whatever. You just never know. And so I think that's probably it. But I don't really know. It's just changing times.
I can remember going to the old Met Stadium back when baseball was still the game in the 60s, early 70s. First I was an Orioles fan. Boog Powell, Jim Palmer, Brooks Robinson, Frank Robinson, those guys. And I can remember sitting the game went so fast because I would sit and I would watch Boog Powell at first, or I would watch Jim Palmer pitching, or I would watch Brooks Robinson down at third. For an inning, all I would do was watch those guys.
Sure.
And everything they did, and time just flew, because it was the only time you were going to have a chance to see the star. I went to a Monday night game, and when Billy Martin was coaching at I think he was at the Oakland A's. They were winning. The guy that threw the spitter, Gaylord Perry, was pitching for him. He was late and old, and he struck out Carew, just embarrassed Carew. I mean, Carew missed it by 1.5 feet, and just freaked out. And Ron Luciano was umpiring behind the plate, called 2 balls on Gaylord Perry. Of course, Gaylord Perry, one of the most competitive humans ever to play baseball, lost. And Billy Martin, all you had to do was look at him wrong, he'd start yelling.
Fight,
And it was chaos. It was wonderful.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
Yeah.
I can remember sitting and I couldn't get to the box scores fast enough in the morning the next morning.
Yeah. I was at a Cubs thing, and Lee Smith was talking. If you remember him.
Yes.
Great big man. Yep. Huge man, 6'6" maybe, and a relief pitcher could throw the ball. And he was the Cubs and the Mets, I believe. But they got into a beanball thing going where one guy got hit, so then the next inning somebody else got hit on the other team, and back and forth, and everybody came out and had their little brouhaha and this sort of thing, and the umpire threatened everybody, said, you can't believe it. Nobody was thrown out. He said they just got everybody settled down and went at it, and a couple of innings later they had something else happen, and they had everybody came out of the dugout and wrestled around a little bit, and then they went back. And then he said at the end of the game, towards like in the 8th inning, they called Lee Smith in to pitch. And so he said, with his first pitch, I plunked old so-and-so right in the side, And then I looked at their dugout and they said, hey, what's the matter? Nobody's coming out here. So, the Cubs had a pitcher, and he hit this guy, and the guy charged the mound. It was Hendricks, I think. And Hendricks went around and just tackled the guy and threw him on the ground, started punching him in the head. I bet nobody charges that guy again. Yeah. He was just mean and tough, but throw the ball. So, I don't know. And you talk about bad plays like that, that's why it's so fun, but you just never know. But, so I don't know. I always got a lot out of it. So
you talk about the beanball war, and Greg Maddux, when he was a young pitcher, had the greatest control. The greatest control maybe in baseball history. And I forget their shortstop at the time for the Braves, but
Atlanta, okay.
For the Atlanta Braves, he was beaned, and Maddux had been told before the game if he didn't win the game, he was going to be sent back to the minors. And it was like the guy got beaned early in the game, and of course the pitcher was expected to retaliate. Yeah. Maddux went to the guy and says, "You want me to get him back?" And the guy said, "Yeah." If Maddux hit him, he knew he was going to be thrown out, and he was going to not get the decision. He was going to be sent back to the minors, and Maddux hit him.
Yeah.
And talk about a loyal person. You're going to be sent back to the minor leagues.
My brother loved baseball. Probably where I got it. My next oldest brother, but he just hated Maddux. You watch those games. He'll be 6 inches outside the plate, and they'll call it a strike. So then he'll go 8 inches outside the plate, and they'll still call it a strike. He just hated that guy got all those calls where it would be impossible to hit the pitch. That darn Maddux. He said they just they give him those calls all the time. So
All right. Well, speaking of baseball, the Hall of Fame took place this past week, and 3 new guys were taken in. Ichiro from the Mariners had 1,700 hits before he got to the United States, in Japan.
Yeah. That's amazing, isn't it? Though?
Yeah. He was 26. He was 26 years old before he played in the major leagues.
Okay.
And gosh, what did he get? Another 4,000 hits?
Something like that. Yeah, he's got a lot of them.
Yeah. But he was one vote shy of being unanimous choice into the Hall of Fame, and nobody will come out and say they're the ones that didn't vote for him.
Yeah.
Then Billy Wagner and C.C. Sabathia.
Sabathia.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, they're the three. It is. It was Billy Widener's final chance, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what they said. It was his last chance.
Yeah.
They showed him getting the call, and he just broke down in tears, and so he wanted it. They have the sports writers still vote, and you have so many years, and then after that they have the old timers committee that can put you in, and so. But I think you want in somewhere in those first ballots. That's your goal is to.
Yeah.
But. Billy Wagner could pitch, and Will Sabathia for the Yankees, a clutch pitcher. You needed a game one, he could win it for you. He doesn't have the super stats, which I don't think pitchers ever will again, the way they play the game
No.
now. They're going to have some different criteria to look at for pitchers, I think, in the future for going in the Hall of Fame, because a lot of those guys, just going 5 innings, that's the worry. If you go 5 to 7, that's all they want from you. And
you throw that hard, Dale. And the issue, and a lot of this doesn't change. You've got kids at 7, 8, 9 years old playing 100 games a summer.
Yeah, too many.
And they might be playing with 3 different teams, pitching for 2 of them, and then by the time they're 20, it's automatically they're gonna need Tommy John surgery.
Yeah. You ever have arm fatigue where you just couldn't throw the ball? Like your arm was so weak you just couldn't. I had that just once, and when I was older. But it's the strangest feeling. You can't throw the ball 20 feet.
Right.
There's no, like you have no muscles in your arm at all.
Yeah.
And I'd never experienced that before. It was just very strange. And I know people get that. From throwing and they throw so hard that a lot of them only last 3-4 years. These, flamethrowers, they're just there and then they're gone. And so, because the human arm wasn't meant for some of that stuff.
You go back, and Nolan Ryan just amazed me what he did, what he accomplished. Maybe, talk about incredible feat there.
Mm-hmm. I can pitch all those years and still throw that hard. Just amazing.
Yeah. So. All right, this is Steve Brown Arts Center Podcast Network. We're coming to you live from Cowork 591 Studios. We're recording late tonight, but we're still recording, and Kelly's kind enough to allow us to come into the studio late tonight. So.
And we're still awake.
And we are.
That's amazing. So.
Yeah, the AARP bus is out front waiting for Dale and I, but we'll be out soon. So Dale, I've got a question for you. You're a book man. You're a reader. I as much as I go to the library, I would rather buy a book than I can read it at my own speed. And I don't worry about getting it back to the library, although they're very good about letting me check it out and keep it.
Yeah.
If I spill coffee on it, I feel pretty guilty about it.
That's maybe a bit much. So.
Yeah. But Dale, do you go to Barnes & Noble often?
I know what often is, but I would bet 10 times a year maybe. I know, not terrible.
Right.
I use the library a lot.
Yeah.
But every now and then I'll read about a book coming out, and I can't wait for the library, so I'll go over and buy it. And then I'll turn it, ask Becky if she'd like my copy. Sometimes you can only keep so many books.
Right.
And then she'll get after me because I bought that book. So instead of waiting for her to get it. But.
Sort of wandering off topic for just a second. And I used to collect books to keep them for my library.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I used to look around me, and I thought, my library is consuming my life here. I don't have room for anything else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I proceeded to give books away, and I truly believe this. Once I read a book, I try to give it away. There's no need in keeping it. Now, I do keep probably, there's probably 20 books I keep that are dear to me. I love The Greatest Salesman in the World, and I've probably given 100 of those away, so I'll go by and, I have The Art of War, of course the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, I've got The Old Man of the Sea, I have Animal Farm, and things like that. Books that are dear to me.
Sure.
It's on a small shelf, and not like I used to have multiple shelves.
No, when I go to Barnes & Noble, it's almost like I could use a shopping cart, because I see lots and lots of books, and I have to kind of choose, which 2 or 3 I'll actually end up buying and this sort of thing. But I should show you, I have an essay from I used to love Time magazine way back when that was how you got your news. And on the back page, they always had an essay. And the one essay, and I have it at home, and I've had it 40 years or more. But it starts with, "Can I borrow that book?" Then the guy goes through the whole essay explaining how that's how he got all his books in the first place, is borrowing it from other people. And how he hated anybody asked him this, and it ends at the last line is, "Borrow my book, I'll break your arm, you bastard."
And here I saw this, and here are some key activities at Barnes and Noble. I'm like you, Dale, but I've developed a philosophy when I go in. I go in about 10 times as well.
Okay.
And I've developed a way. So I'll buy an expensive book. I'll buy a book from the $10 shelf. And then I'll buy something that I like a magic tricks or a journal that I need or something like that.
Sure.
So usually 3 things. That way I don't spend the house payment on books.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. But here's some activities at Barnes and Noble that you can do. You can browse and buy books, explore a wide variety of genres and titles across different sections of the store. It's amazing how many books they have.
Yeah. Now, they used to have little chairs around where you could sit and read, but they don't have those anymore, do they?
No.
Yeah, the last few times I've been there, or maybe it's been years, I don't know, but they used to, it's kind of hard to stand there and just kind of go through and read a couple chapters real quick, but they took the chairs away, so.
It's amazing that you can take them over to the coffee shop and read them. How many of them are,
have chocolate chip cookie on them.
Or the magazine. I love to go get a magazine and go to the coffee shop and read that magazine too.
Yeah.
Or you can visit the B&N Cafe. You can get your Starbucks there.
Yeah. Sometimes you buy enough books that you get a free cookie slip or something.
Yeah.
I always use mine. So.
Yeah. Attend author events. I've never been to an author event. Have you been to an author event?
Barnes and Noble, no.
Okay, you can join a book club.
Never done that either. So.
Oh, you and I went to a book club on
Monday.
On Monday, yeah, that was fun. That was enjoyable.
It was, and I was surprised because every month I read the book that there's going to have the book club about, and was different, wasn't it?
Right.
And different than when Sally and Joe meet in Montana, and I don't know. But this was a tough book, and about the failings of the Secret Service in guarding presidents, and told you a lot about the presidents that you really don't want to know, probably so I was very, very impressed with it. And there were like 3 men and 12 women, right? Or 9. I think there's 12 of us all together.
Right.
But it's some good discussion, and everybody kind of saw the same thing in there. Everybody a little shocked by what is really going on in Washington D.C.
Right.
And so I did you get a copy of the next book, or
I read the flap, and it didn't look like a genre that I enjoyed, so I didn't get one. Did you get one?
No, I hadn't even looked at it. So okay, but I'll take your advice.
All right. Another thing you can do, you can find children's activities. You see a lot of parents taking their kids in there. A great way to get your children to start reading.
Well, when I was still teaching, I spent a lot of time in the little children's section over there looking for books. And I know my wife, also a teacher at elementary, and she would spend a lot of time over there laying with something. You can buy a whole pile of those little books. You know?
You can check out special events, look at seasonal events, book launches, or theme displays. There's always something in there. I'm still a hard calendar man, and I go in there, and there's so many different options for a new calendar. It drives me crazy.
What always impressed me is that when you're in the Barnes and Noble, if you talk to the clerk, do you have this book? But it gave you the impression that they knew what you were talking about, and they knew that book, and they knew of that book, that they had read about that book, and that gives you a good feeling that you're talking to somebody that loves books as much as you do. They're not just a clerk trying to sell you something. I don't know if it's still that way or not, but shoe store. We went to Brown Shoe
Store. The
guys there act like they know something about shoes.
Oh, yeah.
They're not just a kid from high school that's trying to make $10 an hour or whatever. And so I like those kind of places where the people there know their product.
Yeah, I do too. You can relax and just read. They have comfortable seating. You can browse books. You can read a selection of books. If you don't want to buy it. Sometimes I'll go in there with the intention of buying a book and it'll be $49.99 and I'll think, I need to go over here to the cafe and read a chapter.
Yeah.
That's what I need to do.
Yeah.
You can browse curated sections, discover new titles through the staff picks or theme displays. Every once in a while, there will be, about once every 10 times I go in there, the theme displays are what I like, but usually the theme displays are not my genre.
Yeah.
And you can explore different formats, check out audiobooks, ebooks, and other made options. Yes or no? Yes or no here. Blake, we'll start with you. Is listening to a audiobook reading a book?
We've had this conversation before, and I still don't know the right answer.
Yes or no? Pressure's on you. 5 seconds.
No, you're listening.
All right.
I vote no also, because to me, reading a book means if you get to page 10 and there's a character, okay, who's that guy? You can go back to page 3 where that character was introduced and going in your brain again. So I like that ability to read and reread and try to find what a word means that's used. And so to me, it's not reading. It's like Blake said, it's listening to a story.
See, I'd argue against that.
You're outvoted 2-1. So
I value that. I value that, but you're both wrong.
I value your opinion, but you're wrong again. Yeah.
Here's the thing: we're both getting the same thing out of the book.
Well, that's true. Yeah, but again, if you can read it and then reread parts of it to help with your understanding, I think you're getting more out of it than. Plus, usually, if you listen to the book, you're also driving at the same time or something like that, and so your mind is distracted.
Have I ever given you a copy of The Greatest Salesman in the World yet?
I don't think so.
I've had it on here.
You've talked about it.
I will email you the copy that is on YouTube.
Okay.
And I've read the book over 100 times, and I've listened to it probably 10 times. Both of them are great.
Yeah.
Both of them are great. The author actually reads it, and I will share that with you. I'll let you listen to it, and then I'll get back to you.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Either way, I'd advise you to go to Barnes and Noble. I worry, Dale. I worry that Barnes and Noble isn't long for the world with our Amazon. I've ordered, the last book I ordered was off Amazon because I couldn't get it in. Yeah, I tried to get it through Barnes and Noble, and they couldn't get it for me. And Amazon had it.
My son works at the Target store in Cedar Falls, and he was saying they have a lot of hardback books there that he buys when they go on, and he shares them with me. But he said because I was talking to him about, is it worthwhile for Barnes or for Target to have a book section? And he said yes, they go through a lot of books, they sell an awful lot of books, and so there are still people buying books, and so. And when I go to Barnes and Noble, there's always people in there. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I'm like you though. It's one of those stores that maybe won't make it, and especially if the stores around you aren't doing too well.
Yeah.
And man, I went down to the hardware store here in Jesup the other night. It was like 4:30, and it's turning dark, 4:45. I needed just some batteries, and man, nothing on the street.
Right.
I mean, absolutely nothing. And even Peterson's, it was hard to tell they were open until you get real close and you can see the light was on in there and see Marilyn was in there. But there's not much to bring anybody to Jesup to shop or anything. It's just really it's so different than it used to be.
It is, and one thing that keeps the hardware store open in Jesup is Dave Peterson can fix anything.
Yeah,
He's exceptional.
Yeah,
I mean, just tremendous. And I'm sure that is that is a great source of income for them. Mm-hmm. And I worry about that. Because
as they get older.
Yeah, because they're not far from our age.
Yeah. This is when my daughter was in her early 20s. She got out of college. She was living in Waterloo, and her garage door wouldn't work. So she called me, and I went over there, and lo and behold, I saw, there's a broken bolt. I saw right away what to do. So I went. There was a 4 or 5 blocks away. There was a hardware store. It wasn't like a hardware store. It was like these chain things.
Yeah.
So I go in there and say, okay, I need a 1/4-inch bolt, a lock washer, and a nut. And, well, here we have a box of 12 here. I said, no, I just need one. And no, we sell them by the box.
Right.
So I had to buy a box. And I said, boy, Peterson Hardware, you want one bolt, one nut, one washer, you can buy it, And some of those things, like 3 cents a piece or whatever. But if you just need one, they had them there to sell. And so that's what I like, is it's very customer oriented, and whatever you need. And if they don't have it, they can get it for you.
So, Dale, this is Steve Brown, Art Serve Podcast Network. Dale, since we met last with our listeners, we have a new president. You have some reading, some things about
I thought,
our new president.
I was thinking, we're trying not to be super political here, but almost every day with Trump being president, there's something that you could come up with that you could talk about that either enrages you or amuses you or whatever. And so one thing, I just have two things. And the one thing was, and he said it during the campaign, he said it during his inaugural speech about countries sending their criminals and emptying their insane asylums or whatever and sending those people to America. And then the next day, he releases 1,500 convicted felons from America's jails out into society. And some of these are hardcore people. And it really got me because, one, they showed a young man this morning. It must be his social media thing. But he is so afraid of his father getting out of jail that he has bought a gun. And he was showing, it was a Glock with a 9mm, but showing this on his social media, said that he had bought a gun. And a police officer who was assaulted by someone very badly has gotten a no contact order for this guy, for his family, because he's so afraid this guy's going to come after him. Because I imagine he probably testified at the trial or something. And so I guess it's the irony of it that he's complaining about these hardcore criminals coming into the country illegally, but then he's letting his own, and I think they're all criminals. I think they all should be in jail, loose on the American public. So I found that to be something worth remarking about.
He surprised a lot of people by letting everybody go. I mean,
the violent guys too, because they thought maybe the violent guys, he would not do that, but he did them all. Because even his vice president a week ago said, no, the violent guys we shouldn't release.
Right.
And but then Trump released them anyway. So very surprising. And then this other comedians was talking about, and he showed where when Trump took the oath of office, he did not put his hand on the Bible.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, he raised his right hand, but he didn't put his left hand on the Bible. And the guy said, of course, if he had put his hand on the Bible, either Trump or the Bible would have gone up in flames. Well, that was kind of funny, I thought so. But so they're going to be after, they say the late night guys, and everybody's going to be after him. They're not going to quit. Everything he does that they find amusing, they're going to talk about. So anyway, those are just the two little things I thought about Trump. So far, I think, we're in for a rough time, I think. It's just amazing to me, some of the things he wants to do. The World Health Organization, he's taking us out of that. And, a disease that happens, it starts in the deepest, darkest Africa, could be here in a matter of days, with airplanes and people traveling so much and this sort of thing. And I think we need to it costs us money. If we can keep a pandemic from happening in the other part of the world, then it's not going to get here either, see? Right. We need to get it at its source. And I think Jimmy Carter tried to work with countries over there to eradicate diseases and this sort of thing, and had real success. And I just think to get us out of the World Health Organization, to want to drill, there's a guy talked today that the oil companies don't want to drill. They're drilling as much as they can already. We're producing more oil and natural gas than we ever have before, and they're not anxious to do anymore.
They don't want, supply and demand. They don't want to give their supply away.
But then you look, we have 9 inches of snow in New Orleans. No snow in Jesup, Iowa. We had, an inch last night? Yeah. Half inch. So dry out west that the country's burning down out there. And then places that never get cold are just cold as hell. And up here, we're going to be in the 40s again later on in the next several days. So you can't tell me that there's not some environmental problems going on for them just to ignore them. And that's our own legislature too here in Iowa. The dirty water they don't talk about, the cancer rate. They want to do $1 million worth of research, which is nothing.
Right.
Why is there so much cancer? They do nothing about how can we stop kids from getting murdered in school. Nothing about that. The real big problems, and they're they were worried about part of Minnesota, like we talked about last week, or whether some boy will play on a girls' volleyball team or something, And I mean, those are important things, but they're not global. They're not the huge things that we ought to be taking care of. And so I don't have a lot of faith in what they're going to end up with. They're going to, everything is money. We have to save money. We have to have less tax. We have to, everybody needs more money. And, if you look at the average American, he lives better than 95% of the people in the world. And we have so much here. And why is getting more our biggest concern? Trump going to send the army to Panama to take back the canal? Is he going to, if they fight, will he have them kill people in Panama to have the canal, which is so old, a huge percentage of the American ships won't fit in the darn thing anymore. So we don't use it nearly as much because it's too small. I'm sorry. There's so much I don't understand. All right, that's all I got. I need to get out of this.
The first bill was sent to Trump today. What was that? I'm trying to think. It passed like 240. Passed the House. What was that today?
I did not see that.
It's escaping me. It'll come about. Blake, can you look that up? The bill that passed the House today that is going to the Senate. So Dale, here are the issues that are facing Iowa. The top 10, like you say, and you mentioned a couple of them as you were speaking. You must be allergic to me right now, Dale.
Well, I do have this rash. No, wait, what do you
The nation, like last year, if you recall, the nation's first school shooting was in Iowa, in Perry, where the principal was shot there.
They had one today. In was it Nashville?
Was it
a school
Nashville?
shooting?
See, I missed that.
Yeah, in Tennessee. Yeah, and they don't know what. One kid was shot to death. One kid was just grazed by a bullet, and then the shooter and killed himself.
Yeah.
And so they're thinking maybe it must be like a personal grudge kind of thing, because he wasn't just a mass shooting. He just shot one person and he killed himself. And so, but of course, they don't know much yet. But
like you say, we're not doing anything about that in Iowa. As a matter of fact, you don't need, if you're 18 and you've taken the class, you don't need a permit to carry.
Yeah.
You can carry a gun.
Yeah.
Number two, Reynolds is still reshaping education. As a matter of fact, I think she's trying to take out, you don't have to have a certain income to go to the private school.
Also today, it came out in Iowa Education that they want you to pass like a civics test before you get your diploma, and that you have to prove that you're an American citizen before you can graduate.
See, I used to do that with my kids, as young kids, freshmen and sophomores.
Yeah. You ever see that test that immigrants have to take?
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of Americans cannot pass that test.
Well, that's why I used to do it with my freshmen and sophomores.
Yeah.
I used to use that test, and amazingly, the kids would do real well.
Well, good.
So we're all right. In Iowa, they can make education out to be the bandits that they want. The legislators, like 70% of legislators, have their children in private schools, and that's one of the reasons they're pushing money to the private schools.
Yeah,
it's not. It's not about
last year there was this guy. I think he was from Kansas. He's a multi-millionaire kind of guy. He's a Catholic, and he put a lot of money into this campaign in Iowa because that particular church has been trying to have help from the state, more money from the state, because they have a lot of schools.
Yeah.
And so, it's very self-serving.
Did you find it, Blake? What was the bill that went to Trump today?
Lake and Riley Act.
Lake and Riley. That's what it is. Lake and Riley Act. If you remember, an illegal immigrant killed Lake and Riley down in I believe it was near Atlanta.
Yeah.
And it is. They're trying to get rid of any convicts if you're a.
Oh, he'd been arrested for shoplifting, and they let him go. Yeah. Okay, that's the guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter if you're a shoplifter or anything. If you're illegal, you're gone.
Yeah.
So. Thank you, Blake. The third one, the carbon solutions, the liquid carbon dioxide pipeline. Mm-hmm. They stopped that one that was going through Buchanan County.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They rode that hard enough. The squeaky wheel does get the grease.
Yeah.
And I believe Mr. Trump proved that.
Mm-hmm.
by getting elected. You know, we talk about Mr. Trump a lot or President Trump a lot, but Dale, and here's the thing: he follows up his promise.
Well, there was an article, his first term, 38% of the things he had promised is what he followed through on.
Yeah.
So it's not all of it. A lot of it is campaign garbage, and some of it's things he really wants to get done or can get done.
Yeah.
And at least then he could want something, but maybe he didn't get it.
Right.
Yeah. It's a little scarier this time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like releasing the 1,500 guys.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like now, you know, you can't elect me again. So what the heck?
And I just wonder what's going to happen when one of those people commits a crime of some kind, because it's bound to happen.
Yeah.
And this guy did this terrible thing because Trump let him out of prison. And we'll have to see. And again, I don't wish bad things on anybody, but it's almost bound to happen that violent people will do violent things. And the one guy, if he was the Proud Boys guy or one of those other group guys, first thing he was going to do was buy some guns.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he texted he was going to buy some effing guns.
Interesting.
Yeah.
After years back and forth, the heartbeat abortion law took force in Iowa. You know, it is now it'd be interesting if the legislators vote on making abortion illegal in all states.
Yeah.
Or not.
Well, that's something President Trump said he would not do.
Yeah.
That it was a state's thing and not a federal thing. So that'll be interesting. He also said that Bitcoin was a terrible idea. And what's the other thing they had? TikTok, yeah. There's a comedian named Ronnie Chang. He's Asian, but he was defending TikTok, you know, just because it's Chinese. The Chinese are, in fact, he says, even though he says, I used to be a white guy from Iowa before I started with TikTok. So that's political. Speaking of comedians, who's the comedian? Chang? Ronnie Chang.
Ronnie Chang.
Yeah.
All right, so Dale, I'll bloviate and give you a minute to think about this.
Okay.
The 5 greatest comedians of all time.
Oh,
this is my list now, Dale.
Oh, you have a list?
I'm not wrong.
Okay.
You know, you'll have a list, and you can't be wrong.
Yeah.
If Blake wants in this, he can be in on this.
Yeah.
He may know some comedians that they haven't showed us at the rest home.
Yeah.
But here are mine. Okay. You go back from as a child, and as a child, I used to love watching Charlie Chaplin films.
Okay.
So number one.
So you're not just talking about stand-up comedians, you're talking about funny people.
Yeah,
okay.
Funny people.
All right.
So I should go 5 to 1. I'll go number 5. The greatest SNL guy ever died early. John Belushi, part of the Blues Brothers.
Oh yeah.
With Dan Aykroyd. He multi-talented, died way too soon.
Yeah.
He's number 5. Number 4. A lot of people would argue for this man, Robin Williams. What a talent!
Oh yeah. Unbelievable.
Again, died too soon.
Yeah.
His mentor is number 3. Big, and you're a Johnny Carson fan.
Johnny Winters. You talking about?
Yeah, Jonathan Winters.
Yeah.
Gosh, I like it. You know, just you get those two guys together, and it was just they just fed off each other.
Yep.
So Jonathan Winters, number 3. Number 2. Groucho Marx. I love Groucho. You know, Harpo was cool, but Groucho just had the lines.
Yeah.
You know, he had that dark hair and the mustaches, the dark glasses, and the eyelashes, and it was he always got the girl besides.
Yeah.
So he's number 2, and then number 1, Charlie Chaplin. So those are my top 5. So Dale, it goes to you.
Well, Rodney Dangerfield.
No,
You remember Rodney?
Yeah.
I loved Rodney. He said, he says, I went to a tough school. Our football team was really tough. After we sacked the quarterback, went up in the stands and got his family.
Okay, that's number 5.
Yeah, okay. George Carlin
4
was very good.
Yep.
Now I'm going to go blank for a while. Oh, Jim Gaffigan is a funny guy.
Yeah.
He has a lot of good stuff, and Jeff Foxworthy.
Oh yeah.
I just love his stuff. He does the redneck jokes and this sort of thing. I just love his stuff, and even what's his name, Larry the Cable Guy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's very, very, very funny. He was doing a show, and again, listening to it, but he's starting his program, his act, he's on stage, and this woman from the crowd, her voice says, "We love you, Larry." And he says, "I thought I told you to stay in the truck." But just real quick. And so how many is that? 4?
That's 5. That's
5. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those are right. The first things that pop into my mind. I just love to hear them talk. And I heard Foxworth the other day. He was talking about his dad was driving and got stopped by a highway patrolman and talked about the boat he was pulling. And the guy said, "Well, what's wrong with that?" His dad said, "What's wrong with that?" Well, he said, "We do require that the boat be on the trailer." And with those guys riding inside the boat, shouldn't be drinking all that beer. But yeah, I like to listen to stand-up comedians, and I like just the outrageousness of it sometimes, and how they can make little things into very common kind of things, and just makes you laugh like crazy, because oh yeah, my wife's that way too. So yeah.
All right, well, Dale, what do you have for local news and library news?
A few things. The basketball players, the girls, the Jesup girls, are 9-3 this year, and they're 4-0 in the North Iowa Cedar League East.
Yeah. That's what. Let me tell the audience the teams that are in the North Iowa Cedar League East. That would include Owine, Wapsie Valley, Sumner, Fredericksburg, Jesup, and Union.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, and the North Iowa Cedar League is so big. They have so many teams. They have the East, the Central, and the West, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's so many teams that you play. The East teams will play each other twice, and they'll play other schools in the conference one time. And it's home one year and away the next year. And they don't have a conference playoff or anything like that. And it's really not super organized in some ways.
Right.
But a lot of schools the size of Jesup have found a home in the North Iowa Cedar League, which is nice.
Yeah.
Because they have competition. You if you're in Jesup, you're going to play Appleton and Parkersburg. You can play Dyke. You can play Grundy Center, LaPorte City, Hudson. Schools about your size within a halfway decent travel time. Though the Western school like East Marshall and it's a drive. If Jesup would have to play out there sometime, which they probably will every now and then.
Well, see now. They're changing things next year.
Well, I've heard that. Yeah. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to work. But
this is how last I knew.
Okay.
Is most recent thing I heard, unless things and coaches have been yelling no about this, but you're going to play your pod twice. Mm-hmm. So that would be 8 games there.
Yeah.
Then you would play the other 10 teams in the conference once.
One time, okay.
So there's 18 games, and you have 3 more games.
So you'd play every team every year.
Yeah.
Okay.
You play every.
I think that's what they're looking. It's what the fans I've listened to have been searching for, something like that.
Yeah.
They want more opportunity, I guess, and fewer having to run and schedule a game someplace. And so
it is. The problem is you have Independence there, 8 miles away, and then you have South Hardin 68 miles away.
Yeah, but Independence is in another class, right? They're a class up, and I don't see anything wrong with playing them,
right?
But it wouldn't be a conference game. And I don't know how many games are they trying to play. 18 games. I'm trying to see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Here the Jesup boys are playing 20 games on this schedule, and so I imagine the girls are about the same.
Yeah, you're allowed 21 games.
21. Okay. So they could play independent sometime. Or when my son was a senior in high school, they had just a crackerjack basketball team. Luke Sabers and Dirk Dahlin, and they went to state that year. And at the beginning of the year, they had this where you play a half. There were 4 teams. 3 teams went to Independence to play. And I was sitting in the stands, and Jesup was playing somebody, and some kids in back of me were from Independence. Said, "Yeah, boy, I'm glad Independence doesn't have to play those guys." So sometimes the smaller school, has a better team. But all right, so games coming up, you can see. So the 27th, the boys are at Vinton-Shellsburg, and that's just a game. It's an out-of-conference game.
Right.
And then on the 28th, they're playing Appleton-Parkersburg. And then on the 1st of February, they're at Don Bosco. And then they also go to Wapsie Valley then on the 4th, which will be the next week, the next Tuesday. And the girls are doing really well. I told you that. And They are at the 28th. They're playing at Appleton Parks, where that's a doubleheader. Then they're going to East Marshall on the 31st, which is a long ways away. And the boys don't play East Marshall, which is interesting. And then on the 4th of February, they're playing Wapsie Valley. And then on the 7th, they have Columbus Catholic along with the boys, a doubleheader. Then the 11th of February, Dike New Hartford is a doubleheader. And then the boys are playing Waukon on their own. And then the 17th, the district start for the boys. And on the 15th, the regional start. So 3 weeks away, huh?
It's coming. It goes fast.
So.
Yep.
I also want to talk a little bit about a young lady, Peyton Youngblood. This is in the news. She's signed with Mount Mercy University to play soccer, and she plays with an independence team and a club team, I think, is what it said.
Okay.
And so, but it's quite good, and I don't know if she got a scholarship, if they give scholarships at that level or not, but she is going to Mount Mercy University in Cedar Rapids and will be playing soccer for that one. And she said she's always had a dream of playing college soccer, and so this is really nice for her. So pretty nice. Library news. A few things yet in January that we can talk about. January 27th at 1 o'clock, this movie Ben is Back, starring Julia Roberts and Lucas Hedges. And that starts at 1 o'clock. And I'm not familiar with that movie at all. The exercise group still goes Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8. The Little Tot Story Time, Thursdays at 10:30. There is Coffee and Crafts on Fridays. And I haven't seen that in their monthly slip they send out, but I saw it in the paper. And then Fridays from 9 to 11, you come in and they'll have stuff there. They'll have coffee, and then you can do crafts. You can bring your own stuff in, or you can use what they have if you're feeling creative and want to do something like that. And the Habitat for Humanity chat is January 28th. And this Brenda Schmidtke from Iowa Heartland Habitat for Humanity will discuss options and how you can help with that. And so, now also, I noticed at the library, on February 4th, from 5 to 7 at night, they're having another open house, and they had one and we talked last week about the endowment fund at the library. Well, this is where you can go, and there'll be people from the library board, the friends of the library, and the library staff, and we'll talk to you about this endowment fund and how you can get involved with that and some of the benefits of that. And the 42 North Winery will be there, and they were there last time also, and they can give samples of wine, and you can purchase bottles of wine from them if you'd like.
Do I need to bring my own fruit jar for that?
No, you don't need to bring your own fruit jar, but you need to bring your ID, though, because...
Right.
And then the Allerton Brewing Company will be there with different kinds of beers that they make, and also they have tasting samples, and you can buy a product also. And I always wonder, like, how many of these samples can I have before I really probably should buy something?
Right,
you know, It's just always that quandary that a person is in.
Yeah.
And I was going to get down and talk to Kelly about this, I didn't, but this Reheat and Ready Meals from Homemade by Bridget Maroney is still going on. And if you order before Sunday at 5, meals ordered before Sunday at 5 can be picked up Tuesday right here at Cowork 591. And so if that would be helpful to you or someone that you know to get a meal that they just would have to warm up, go to homemadecatering.net. And I did that, and they had some nice looking things last week I talked about. So I think that's it.
All right. Well, thank you. Don't forget, we're showing an artist in M's Coffee and Independence. The Steve Brown Arts Center is. That's John Decker. John Decker is displaying many of his art, many of his Valentine's pieces.
They're unique pictures and the fine work that he does. It's just amazing.
Yeah,
how he's able to do that, I think, with what, color pencils and different media like that. And
color pens and color pencils, yeah.
And you cannot see a mistake in anything. I mean, it's just perfect.
It is.
Nice picture for your wife or your sweetheart, either one. So,
Right. Stop in, and John has thousands of pieces. I can put you in touch with John. Joe and Judy Olson are great advocates of John. They have thousands of his pieces collected for John to show. John is amazing. He works hours and hours and hours in his studio at home. Starts about 6 in the morning or 6 at night, goes to about 6 in the morning.
Yeah. He's a Vietnam vet, right?
He is a Vietnam veteran.
You should support him, help him out.
Yes, yes.
I'm sure that's something that means a lot.
It does. He would appreciate that. Also our artist in resident, our second artist in resident, Richard Moore Kelly. I've seen some of his latest work, and to his credit, he has changed up a little bit, and his oil paintings are remarkable. That just jump out at you. The colors he has. If you're interested, I can put you in touch with him. We talked about him being on tonight, but we're taping sort of late, and it was past his bedtime. He said so.
Good for him.
Yeah.
This is the time of year I think it's just wonderful to go to bed. You know, you get the comforter and the heavy quilt or whatever.
Yeah.
Turn the furnace down and just cuddle in there. That's really nice. So.
Yeah, it is.
Yep.
I've told you this before. One of my goals this year is to meet 12 new artists. I've met the first one for January, and I don't want to wait for months, one each month, because
you're going to work ahead. Right?
Yeah,
okay.
Work ahead. If you know an artist, please reach out and get a hold of me. My number is 319-290-0241, or you can contact me at jim@stevebrownartcenter.org. We're looking for artists to support, so please get a hold of us. If you'd like to donate to the Steve Brown Arts Center or have an idea for an event, go to the stevebrownartcenter.org and follow the link. If you have news or would like to sponsor us, email us at jim@stevebrownartcenter.org or call 319-290-0241 or say something to Dale, please, or leave a message. Thanks again to, as always, thanks again to Dale and Blake and Kelly for letting us use Cowork 591 Studios here. Thanks to the audience. Without you, we wouldn't be on the air. So we appreciate that, and thanks for bringing these stray dogs into your life. Happy Valentine's Day. It's coming.
Yeah.
There's a great song, and perhaps I'll sneak it by the producer next week. I never liked St. Valentine's. We'll see. So happy Valentine's. Remember, each day is about little victories.
Little victories.